We are live on YouTube. So, simply to everybody out there, hello, hola, Konnichiwa, Salaam, Ciao Namaste. Peace to all. This is Soulology, the science of the soul. And we're going to continue what we were talking about of where we left off, which was about simply spirit guides and how to understand the self and get to that point. Again, there are several. For some people, there are animal guides. For others, it is, in my own experience and understanding of what I've seen, is the meditation of other beings of who you've been and understanding those parts of who you are. We see ourselves as singular beings living this one life, and that is it. That there is nothing else past this. And that after we get to this point, hold on just a sec. There we go. Sorry about that. Had to check something real quick, but after we get to this point, that this is it. There's nothing else after this, that this is simply it. But again, as I stated in the first video, you are infinite. And it is literally impossible for you to die. You are, in a sense, a memory bank. While you're living this life right now, what you may not realize is that you are a truly powerful supercomputer, as they say. You carry a hard drive that does not run on any 5 gig, 10 gig or anything. Of course, you're running in a filter right now still, like I said earlier, but you are running on an infinite I wouldn't even say terabyte or anything. There's nothing to express how infinite this is. The information that is backed up within who you are is vast. So it's a choice to decide if you desire to remember this or if you are going to keep going through life and not have a care in the world about this. It's a choice. In my own experience, through both meditation and through both higher understanding of the self, you can talk to these parts of you one way or another and understand yourself. It is first allowing yourself to realize that you are your higher self and becoming that. You are a human being, not a human doing. So the same thing of being your higher self is to be it. By being a human being of your higher self allows you to create a higher version of who you are and seeing in your own self that you are capable of being that higher version. Now, the only thing I could personally say is through meditation. And meditation does not mean no, not all the time. Meditation does not mean that you only go into some quiet rest, or close your eyes in the darkness, and that's it. There, again, are plenty of ways to meditate. There is cooking meditation. There is bike meditation, skating meditation. There's walking meditation. There's standing meditation. There's sitting meditation. Whatever works for you in your day-to-day life to get you further to what works for you, let it benefit you. Let it help you and let it grow who you are as a person. That is a choice that you have to be willing to make to get to that point. For me, it has always been embedded in me to help people. Always. No matter how I felt about the world, or no matter what I've seen, something just deep in me desires to help people. No matter what anyone says. I could care less what anyone says, because it's really none of my concern if you like me or dislike me or anything, because you know, one way or another, whether you do what you do or you don't, there are gonna be people who are like that, and in this own experience. So it's a choice from there to remember truly who you are. And remembering, where does the science of this come in? Remembering. And where's the science of being more than just one person come in? You see, you live in a multifaceted world in a sense. There was a theory, and I'm trying to think of the theory. I believe it was multi-something theory. But the theory was simply about that after death, death isn't the end. It's not the end of your horizon of what you do in life, because of the fact of who you are on this parallel world, that you keep going from there. Now, the memory is from, like we were discussing earlier, you are simply like a hard drive. You carry a lot of memory. And even if you didn't understand this, observe it through other means. When you ever see certain children who feel deeply as though they're this person, or act a certain way about certain things, and we could all say that, oh, well, you know, that's just TV and this and that. You see, one of the things that baffles me about life is, through observation, one of the things that you know, if you watch very closely, is the simple fact that when people do a certain thing over and over, eventually it just dies out. But when people do this for years, millenniums, and just keep doing it, and you still don't understand or believe it, you see, that's where you should start looking into it. And that's something I had to take time to look into. And this is why I tell people to meditate on what you are feeling at the time. One of the people I helped to understand themselves was to I told him my meditation of what I do, of course, and like I said, there are different varieties. My meditation personally is meditating in the dark, closing my eyes and taking a breathing session for 7 minutes, and then just silence. And from there, it's easy for me to remember things. Now, for him, he wasn't getting that effect, so I explained to him the same method. And he was able to remember bits and pieces of who he used to be. Now, from here, you have to be willing to decide what experience you're going to have. There are people who know this information and will do nothing. There are people who don't know and can't do nothing. There are people who know and are doing something, and there are people who know and are manipulating people and other things because they know something. In my experience, is in just the best interest to help people, because of the simple fact that one of the lessons I've always known and understand is, what you don't know is what you don't know, and what you don't know can kill you, literally. And for far too long, we see people in the entire world who have harm that does not need to happen. We live off of an ideology believing that there is not enough. And we don't like to do this or observe the simple fact that there is more than enough. But who we are giving those items, or better yet, our resources to, is the small individual few, instead of spreading it out to the whole. We believe that there's not enough. Not enough, we believe, good question by the way. We believe there's not enough food. We believe there's not enough water. We believe there's not enough money. We believe there's not enough clothes. We believe there's just not enough for us to handle helping other people. Now, here's the problem with that. The problem is, again, you are giving a large percentage of that to the smallest and wealthiest class. Now, I got nothing against all that, but it's just simple observation. When you are giving that type of resource to individuals, when we're talking about simple things like minerals, gold, silver, platinum, which most people, if they could understand what they are able to do to the body, if put in the body correctly, many of us wouldn't have the problems we have. Many of those materials that I've just said do help with sickness, do help to keep the body going. But there are many people who don't know that information. And this is something I had to experiment myself and test it myself with monatomic gold and seeing how it worked. I did this for about nearly a year to figure out how exactly would it affect my body. One of the things I observed is it kept my body warm. I didn't get sick. I had more energy. Nobody knows that information on top of, well, of course, many people don't do the research. And we are capable of doing all the research in the world. We live into what we call the age of Aquarius, the information age. You are capable of gathering as much information as you desire. And even if you are seeing, because there are many people who will watch TV and everything, and the one thing I can say is your TV is your storytelling. But the problem with TV being its storytelling, it's not that it's bad. And don't get me wrong, I don't watch too much TV, but it's an understanding at its fullest. Is the simple fact that the TV you're watching is a story to something else. And the story you create can be an outcome of something good or bad. And when you are looking at these stories, they can be manipulated. When you're looking at these stories, they can be inspiring. When you're looking at these stories, they could be horrible, they could be terrific. It's up to what we're creating and what we see in today's society, along with what we're talking about right now. The not enough is a primitive look on life. And not a primitive look on life, but a primitive world of which we live in. We're unwilling to share. We're not even willing to share to the most of the group who needs this. With simple things, we believe that might is right. Competition is everything. But the question would be, if all these things are true, then how come it seems not to work? Now, there are many people who might believe that, oh, well, of course it works, because, like, people make money in this and that, and those who don't. No. Even for those who don't, should have as much of a fair chance as those who do. You see, giving someone that fair chance, we may think, well, they're not doing anything with their life, but you got to remember that there is nothing for you to do in this world. But we believe that to be true because we've been told over and over, and this is true. It's embedded in our mind that we must do something. Now, I'm not saying down doing anything, don't do anything at all, but what I'm saying is that to look at someone else's life and think that they're doing nothing with their life, so they're not good enough to have these things or financially be free or anything, is a downright lie. Everyone should be able to have their fair chance to do whatever they desire, because you never know whose life you may change. Even if, let's say, for example, you help someone. Let's say you help someone. Or, I'm sorry, let's say the world is more in a perception of being more fair. More fair, more caring, more willing to give to people, just simple resources. Exactly. Thank you, Sonia. Everyone having a fair chance. Just simplistic things that every basic human on the planet needs. You need food, you need water, you need clothes, you need shelter, you need the electricity so you can light up where you're at. You need those things to keep yourself balanced. And it would probably help out a lot to keep you stress-free. Because stress in itself is another illusion. But because of how we work in motion, we believe it's too real. And it's only real because of what we've created from it. Now, to add on to that, let's say there are people who are cheating people out of their money. Let's say, and they have what they have. They don't have to worry. Let's say there are people who are doing nothing with their life. The thing you have to realize is you don't know if the person who's doing nothing with their life could be the person who creates the most beautiful music at some point. And it was because they decided to do nothing. But it could have led to something great. Or the person who cheapskates everyone and realizes that this simply harmed people and realizes and literally awakens to the fact of something they've done and decides to take a different route in helping people and growing people and giving people love, care, and kindness like they deserve. We don't know if there will be someone out there who's simply maybe trying to figure things out, and that many people might think they're doing nothing with their life, and then finally create something amazing for the world. We don't know that, so you have no right to judge anybody out there doing anything with their life, because we don't know. Having that fair chance allows you to create what you desire. The person who doesn't want to do nothing, let them do nothing. But you never know what they could create if you allow them to have that fair chance. The people who have everything they need and maybe want more, you can do that. But it would have to be a change in perception and a change in perspective. You can't live your life believing that competition will help you, because truly in the end, even when you may win, or even if it's the opposite side that wins, you lose. You see, the reason why I state you lose one way or another is to go against the self, and the self being both you and what you consider the competition, is in fact, I'll tell you in a minute, Sonia, us going against ourself is what's happening. You see, when you are creating competition, which you have to, again, you are not unifying yourself. You are separating yourself from the other person of which you are. Now, before I go into that, for Sonia, to answer your question, no, I don't believe we all have a fair chance. However, when I say a fair chance, you see, there are, due to, again, this competition ideology, we have people who, if you're not this color, if you're not this sex, if you're not this religion, if you're not this race, you are not among the winners. Now, of course, you can switch all of that by simply being more of who you are and working towards the self. And that is something most people don't do. I'm giving both sides one part for understanding and one part for simply the fact of the truth of what's going on. If you believe yourself to be separated from anyone, and this is why I don't agree with when it comes to certain people who have certain groups, I don't care for those groups. Now, let me explain what I mean by that. Anything that has to do with groups that are fighting for a cause, and it's understandable. Do not get me wrong. It's very understandable for some people, especially in this day and age, for women, black people of black nationality, people who are gay, that there is a separation issue, and they create these things because of the simple fact that it affects them. People harm them and hurt them, and they are not given the same fair chance at times. However, anything that goes against unifying the entirety of everyone, if it's against that, I can't be a part of it. Now, there was a guy who just left a message for Trump 2020, and that to me was interesting. Now, I've observed for over about a year now the whole Trump thing and so on and so forth. And one of the things I've observed very closely, no matter what anybody's saying, is the separation. Doesn't matter who acts the way they act. We're not even going to get into all that. What I notice from this is separation. That's it. Point blank, period. It doesn't matter what the other person says, one side or the other. All I see is separation. I cannot be with that. That's not who I am. And when you look past that and look truly into the love of who you are, the kindness of who you are, the unity of who you are, the peace of who you are, being your higher self is that. And when you get to that point of your higher self, anything that does not go with who you are as a person, of caring, loving, and uniting and growing, evolving people, eventually at some point you won't be with it. And that's personally what happened in my experience. As time progressed, there are certain things I cannot be a part of. And it's not simply because, oh, well, because of your color, your nationality, or anything, so on and so forth. It is simply because it is not about unity. It is not, to me, about peace. It causes more and more trouble. You see, no matter what anyone says, exactly, no matter what anyone says, period. If you, I don't care what race you are, I don't care what religion you are, I don't care who you are. In a sense, if you are opposing the fact of telling someone because they look like this, this, and that, or they believe this, this, and that, that they are the lesser, I cannot be for that. We are all intelligent. We are all amazing beings. I even stated earlier, you are all stardust. None of you is different from the other. It is impossible. You live on a planet, and I even explained this in the marijuana experience that I had, was a simple fact that what you are seeing, and for those people who haven't checked it out, please check the video out. It'll give you more understanding on what I'm talking about. On the soul. The soul, and this is why I tell people the shadow effect. Put your hand on the shadow, put your hand below the light and look at the ring. That is what most people will call an aura. However, that aura is actually your soul. Now, the soul, you might not quite see it, and that's something I've observed a lot more too, is the simple fact that when you are looking at your aura, you might see a ring. That's very true, and you'll definitely see colors if you advance and grow in that. However, as time progresses, and you can do this in both meditation or whatever experiment, I wouldn't suggest drugs or anything. Now, the reason I was doing marijuana, it's not something I consider a drug. It is a herb that I wanted to grow understanding of because of what it's capable of. It is more capable of many things that most people fight against, because what you logically have to think about is who is making money and who's not making money if this is around. And that is something you have to think about, period. No matter what, actually. When someone is against something that you know is beneficial for the whole, who's making money for it not to be around? That's what you have to ask yourself. When we talk about the pharmaceutical companies, they make billions. If one simple plant can help you, and not only help you, but provide an extensive amount of other variety of things it can do, from building clothes, plastic, and other materials, and being very much a medical way to help you, it should be something you should think about. The problem is, though, someone can't make money if something that is so extensively amazing gets pushed in the way. And that's what we think. We don't think past that. We think that that's the only case. we don't think that we can use or create something else. And the thought of this is simply we are not thinking on a creative level. And this is why I said we're thinking from a primitive state of mind. To truly evolve, one wouldn't worry about the fact that there's not enough. To truly evolve, do you mean marijuana, or what, or do you just mean life in general? Because if you're talking about marijuana, I would say it's give or take your choice and your reasoning. I wasn't using it because of the simple fact that, oh well, I just want to, just do it. I had a simple goal in mind of understanding. I wouldn't, and this is, I believe I said this earlier, I wouldn't advise people using this just to use it. For a simple fact, unless you had a reason or a medical condition that needed the help of it, or if you were trying to understand something further. And that's what I was trying to do. I was experimenting to try to understand something further of the self, which I did get a chance to see. And Sonia, if you do want to see that video, by the way, go to my last video, and you can, not my last video, my last video, which would be the marijuana experience. It will give you more information. You could probably check that out if you want to check that out later on today or later on tomorrow. It's up to you, but that'll give you a little more understanding of what happened, because it didn't really change my thinking. I wouldn't say it opened who I already am further, and that was something I was learning about that. But to continue on, it is because we don't think past that we believe that there's no possible way we can do anything with whatever it is. For example, I don't think it's evil because of the simple fact of how extensive it is, and what it's capable of, to help people. However, one of the things that I would be careful of is where you get it from. And again, what you're using it for. What's the purpose behind it, of why you desire to use it? Of course, there are people who use it to use it, and look, you can't change anybody's choice. And you're going to hear a lot of people who talk about the simple fact that you're going to hear a lot of people who say that it's a gateway drug. And personally, from my observation, I've never seen that. And I'm not saying that from, oh, just this year and everything. I'm saying close, not quite close to a decade, because of what I've seen around me, that I've never seen it harm anyone. I've seen drugs harm people. And when I'm talking about drugs, I'm talking about things like opiates, or when we talk about cocaine, when we talk about different variety of drugs like that in that section. Because you see, what the difference between the two is, one is made through chemicals to create a pill-like substance that is supposed to be beneficial for your body. The other one is a herb. You can find it out in nature, and you can actually implement it in your life, even if you didn't get it from a store. Because personally, I would suggest you even making your own. But even if you didn't get it from a store or anything, you could create your own. You could make your own. And as a matter of fact, I would suggest that simply for the fact of, you don't need anything. We believe we need stores. We believe we need to buy things when we can create these things ourselves. And this is exactly what I'm talking about. You are capable of creating all this stuff. But because we're afraid of the simple fact, especially for people who make money off of it, that it becomes a problem, rules and regulations get put into place. This, however, and the only reason I would say that it's not even the lesser of two evils, it's the simple fact that if you see history for what it is, there is a grand lobby against this, and will constantly tell you how bad this thing is. And yet there's no proof really to back it up. Literally no real proof. There's people who have made statements about it, and of course believe that, and I would say due to our mental belief of what we hear from someone else, we believe that to be true instead of doing our own research, that we believe that this is a drug that's not good. And I'm sorry, I constantly hear all the time it's a gateway drug, but I don't get any information that tells me that someone's been harmed. I've never had any info. And if any of you guys know anyone who's been harmed from it, again, don't hesitate to tell me in this conversation. I'd love to know, because I'd love to do a study on that to understand if that is something that happens. But as far as I've seen through observation, I have not seen any problem with it. Now, back to what I was saying. To add on to all this, you're able to create everything. So even if something does not work the way it does, see, our ideology, especially in different businesses, believe that the simple fact that if my business is destroyed, then I cannot grow anything better. But the question would then be, why not grow something magnificent out of what you already have, instead of worrying about the next person who's creating something? And this is something we don't keep in mind. If someone created, for example, a better way to drive cars, everything else, the gas industry would be out of business. But then the question would be, what could you do with that gas that is creative? Instead of believing that there is no way you can go anywhere with it. That is our ideology, that we believe that there is no other way to go past that. That the only way we can do this is by simply believing that might is right and competition is everything. And that does not work. It's that simple. You are honestly too creative to believe that just because this is the way it is, that there's nothing else you can create. And of course, on the other hand, for those people who do want to create things, and of course, again, this leads back to the people who believe they're the winners and so on and so forth. Create on and on and on, over and over again, until you get to where you desire to go. It doesn't matter what anyone does. It doesn't matter what they try to do, because the more you learn to create, the more, when you are in your mindset of just desiring to create, you will keep creating, no matter what anyone says. No matter who, what's the word I'm looking for? No matter who takes what you have, or in a sense, no matter who's doing what, you will create more. You'll create something better. You'll create, because the way I look at it, if you had to go out and decide to steal something that I was creating, then it means to me, whether I like it or not, I have to really think of the simple fact that, well, I can create something more, something better, something more magnificent. And the more you have that mindset of knowing you can create more, the more you will grow that. That is the beauty. So no, there is more than, there's a plenty of resources on this planet, but the problem is we don't want to share it. The way you can change that is simply by sharing everything. And that is a hard concept for people, trust me. I'm still working on that. That is a very hard concept for people, especially when you're living in society as today. Now, for some people who are not in this type of society as today, they may not have this problem. There are many people in societies who believe because there are primitive other human beings out there that they're not doing it right and so on and so forth, but yet they share. It's simplistic and they don't worry about things. We as a human species make things more complex than they need to be, when it should be simple. It should be easy. So in summary, you can find yourself through yourself. Because, like I say always, to know thyself is to know the gods, the goddesses, and creators within. That is who you are. That is your birthright. No matter what anybody on the planet says, that's just who you are. You have no need for anything. You can create anything. And the more you go further with understanding that, the more it'll be simple for you to create and articulate ways and strategies to grow where you desire to go. There is enough resources for everyone. But you have to observe the simple fact that we live in a society that believes that there's not enough because there are only an individual few who are given the 99% of resources that should be given to the whole. Who you are is infinite. You will keep creating one way or another. And there are many other methods to create that. There is not one way to create something. I always say this because it's simple. And it's what's helped me get to where I've gone even today. Ours is not a better way. Ours is simply another way. No matter what way you're trying to get, if it works for you, it works. It's all that matters. Hate doesn't work. It's never worked. It's impossible for it to work because it devolves things. It does not evolve things. It does not grow things. Even if it benefits one party, you have to understand it doesn't benefit the whole. Love evolves things, grows things, shows kindness, shows sympathy, and pushes what is necessary. And time again, that is something that is truly observable. From the most violent of wars of separation, from the most kindest acts of unity in times of desperation. Remember always, you are amazing, divine, and beautiful, no matter who you are out there. You are the gods, the goddesses, and the creators within. Know and research and find who you are, and see the beauty of the God and Goddess and Creator you are. And know, to everybody out there, have a good morning, have a great afternoon, and a fantastic evening. Namaste. You're welcome. You guys have a good night.